Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and today I'm doing a story on the first X-Men character or X-Men related character introduced in the Marvel Universe. Right? Now, since they own it, they have these characters, but you don't realize, none of you realize that the character's already been introduced. Right? We got our first thing. So once Marvel got this, they've been able to play in the X-Men universe, they've utilized the character from the X-Men. And you're saying, no, they haven't, right? We saw the movies, we haven't seen it. We got some Easter eggs, but we haven't had a full-fledged X-Men character the in the actual universe in a Marvel Studios movie. And I say, no, you're wrong. They have, right? And here we go. Ready, set, and bang. You say, oh, come on, that's some BS. We already know about Namor. We know about Namor. We know he's now the new Aztec sort of amphibious characters that goes by the name of Kukulkan, Khan, right? He has the history and all this other stuff. The Marvel people, they sat back and instead of resting on their laurels. They are decided to take Namor and they turned him into this Aztec Mayan character that his people slowly over time became amphibious, right? Through, well, we don't want to say that person's name because we're not going into his theory of evolution because the history of that is terrible, right? So they try to utilize that to say these people slowly develop the ability to breathe underwater, right? So you say, all right, you BS'd us a long time. You don't have any proof. I'm like, yes, this is one of my favorite periods of the X-Men, right? And you say, no way. If it was a favorite, it's something everyone know. Maybe not. Ready, set, go. We're gonna go to, here he is, Kukulkan. I told you guys. Even I passed by this guy, right? I was looking through this X Men because I've been wanting to do this period where one of my favorite periods, and I looked at it again, trying to figure out how I could deal this like year long span of one of the X Men leaving the team, and how could I get that onto do a video about that? But I found the hook. This is the first Marvel, at least the name, the Kukulkan. Khan. Just only difference is adding more apostrophes and then changing the C to a K. It's so well. So, says the man called El Tigre is no more. No more. See? The connections are totally there. In his place is the reincarnation of the mighty god Kukulkan. Now strides the earth, omnipotent master of all he surveys. Now let humanity beware, for nothing can stand against the invisible, irresistible power of Kukulkan. There we go, and that took our our Namor to no more. All right, so hey, a couple extra apostrophes, turn a C to a K. It's a little more than a coincidence, right? So, hey, I called it. No, I didn't call it. I found it most recently, so I had to do a video about it. But let's talk. Let's see it. I showed you an issue just so you can see it says Cyclops there. You saw if you're looking, you can see it says Cyclops. But hopefully, I can just do 3 issues of this. I'd like to get to the end because that's where we get to the the, the go-go section of when they go out to get coffee and whatnot. It's one of the greatest periods for me, at least. Right? Well, hold on, guys. I'm going there. So I'm going to start in issue 24 because it's going to be a start of this arc, which is a thing that when I got this, I didn't realize it, but then I was looking at it. In this issue, Jean exits. That's right, Jean leaves the team. She decides she wants to go off to college. She wants to study at a separate college, right? So here she's taking some books with us for that might be that she could use for college, right? And she decided she was, instead of going to private school, to go to a more conventional college. And the team doesn't feel it's going to be the same, but the two that especially hurt outside of obviously Xavier is Angel and Cyclops. Now, Cyclops kind of drove her away because Cyclops is very closed off because of his eyesight, and they very much played it as this person dealing with his powers that could kill somebody. So he was constantly worried, and he couldn't really show his true affections for Jean. But at the same time, Jean had this strong attraction to Scott, but at the same time, she felt rejected because he wasn't making, he wasn't showing any kind of interest, right? There's only points where she might be in peril and he would show interest, but at the same time, Angel was showing a lot of interest, but her interests were more towards Cyclops, which Angel knew. So this is a struggle for him too, right? Now you would think this sort of love triangle put them at odds, and at times it would, more for Cyclops. For Angel, Cyclops was his friend, right? So at times when Angel would be going on a date with Jean, and a couple where he didn't take Cyclops, but if Cyclops asked, he would take Cyclops along and they would hang out as friends, right? Whereas Angel was going for a romantic thing, but if Cyclops asked to go with him, he would agree, right? So they were very close friends, which is a good part of the story. You're going to see this play out in this part. So she's getting some books. She's getting the team is really affected, but as I already said, so she's happy and she takes her leave. She gets a ride with you go to Metro College, where Johnny Storm is at right now, and she goes in there. She's not going to be an X-Men anymore. She meets Ted Roberts, right? And she's gone. She meets Ted Roberts and he's gone. We get the villain of the thing, Locust, right? Another nutty villain for the X-Men, right? It's this guy who's actually these crickets, right? So yeah, it is true. But why would you use a whack villain? Well, actually, they didn't use this one. They use one in the next issue, right? So X-Men's about their business, and they run into these large locusts, seemingly these large crickets making all these sounds and whatnot. And now, see, I can't co-sign some of the stuff that's going on in the X-Men issues of the fighting stuff. I can't. Sorry. But I can always, what I loved was the interaction, the teamwork, the camaraderie, and, that sort of thing, and them being friends, and not necessarily being, even at times when they were rivals, they would go away from it. When Scott became leader, they would kind of not buy into it, right? So we see this whole story developing here at the college. She's there meeting Ted Roberts. She immediately fits in with the team that's set up with this guy with the beard, right? But she still has a little bit of superhero in her, so she's kind of got to side eye everything because she's thinking about it, right? And this guy who's with the beard is actually Mr. Locust guy, right? So we see Professor Xavier. Now, Professor Xavier has changed his role, right? He's just their advisor. He's not their leader anymore, even though he did what he had to do against Lucifer. He is mainly their advisor, and he's not necessarily their leader, which is kind of forgotten when they did the new X-Men, where Xavier was gonna somehow be still the leader when he'd already moved away from that role while Cyclops was there, right? So while they're doing their thing, when the weekend comes, Jean comes back, right? And she's gets immediately involved in this story, and she has elements of being at Metro College that connects to what this is, right? So, you know, Xavier makes his rounds and he's checking things out. And he's trying to figure out what's going on, but he's got all the pieces to the puzzle. And then Xavier puts them on their mission. So the X-Men take their helicopter. Before they had that, they always had run around in their helicopter, and they run into the Locusts again, right? The Locust is pretty tough, and this is another problem. When you have a tough villain that might be lame, you just have to figure out how to make this guy cool. Like Locust could be, a good name. You just gotta kind of make him cool, right? Now Warner Rudd has had better moments, but this adversary is pretty tough. But to most Marvel guys, they kind of look at this and say, "Hey, this Spider-Man could beat this guy, so the X-Men must be lamer than Spider-Man, right?" So you see how the X-Men get trapped by the Wasps. His creatures. He said that he has wasps. The Locust brings up wasps, and they kind of seal the X-Men in this cage. And Cyclops blasts them out. We're just quickly going through this. This is kind of nutty having these gigantic wasps and rodents and stuff like that. The X-Men finally put a stop to him, but the person who was actually this weird guy was Xavier. It just gets nuttier and nuttier, right? So we got through that issue. Am I giving you guys a good endorsement of this? I don't know. But let's keep going. Here's some more wacky X-Men villain. We have LT Gray, right? Right? And X-Men goes stop it, like they're going to stop a fire, save people, but at the same time, she is hurt, right? And then Cyclops goes in and ends it and gets the rest of the people out, right? And the firefighters do their thing and X them off. But then she's like, "Hey, Cyclops seems to be worried about her." So see at the bottom of the page, she has this thing where she's kind of struggling with Cyclops being so stoic and grim all the time. But that's mainly because of his eyesight issues, right? She goes back, runs into Tad, and we have Cyclops with his doubts. We have Angel with, you know what? It's time for me to move on. Where, you know, we have a Cyclops that's really in his negative thing where um, Angel, who's more aggressive, is thinking, you know what? I'm kind of. And now here we go. This is going back to the whole point of the video, right? The point of the video is we see them in this Aztec area in Central America, right? Where we can talk about the Mayans, and of course, Roy Thomas, who wrote this, who probably, had it might be from some actual history, right? So LT Gray's going in here and he's going through this Aztec stuff, and he finds, of course, you got to find some sort of thing that feeds us some energy, right? And it immediately starts to give him some power. They think it's some sort of gold, right? And it's giving him some power, right? And he's now connecting with it. And the X-Men are trying to do their studies. Now, this is one of the few times we get to see the X-Men kind of doing their studies outside the Beast, right? So we get to see the X-Men doing their studies, but it's just kind of a panel for show. And of course, there's a warning, and it could be a Homo superior, but someone terribly powerful, right? So Cerebro is going off even if it's not, it's close enough to a mutant, right? And he's disappointing. Xavier has mechanical legs. Oh gosh, they don't work out that well, right? So he's not going to go on the road with them, right? So that's how he was able to walk the last time. So the X-Men and Angel's taking the flight on his own, and they're trying to find the source of this power. And they're able, Secret is now able to change people's mind. It takes a cab. The X-Men's trying to figure it out. And of course, we have a classic to remind you that Cyclops' power is dangerous, right? So he's reading the paper and not paying attention, and he's careless. One of the few moments he's careless, he bumps into someone and his Optic glass going. And this is where you get your classic, hey, he's a mutant, let's go attack him type of scene, right? Because he had a dangerous power that could have killed him, right? So they see that the Tigre guy is kind of doing all this terrible stuff, right? And X-Men's on the mission. They realize this is the guy. They're going in there, but the El Tigre guy got some traps for him. And this is another thing of why a lot of people think X-Men are pretty lame. They keep falling all over themselves in these things, and they can't win for losing. But ultimately, this is how comics work, where the heroes are challenged, and at the same time, they're getting, obviously, Tigre is kind of tricking the authorities to go after the X-Men when he's under control of El Tigre. Sorry, that's what happened before. So he gets his last ornament, and that turns him into Kukulkan, right? So let's do the last issue. We see Kukulkan, who has the whole get up. I mean, obviously, Marvel did their own way, but we have the Aztec, the pyramids in the background. We have Kukulkan and his adornment, all this stuff, right? And we realize this guy has this past and connection and all this power, and Xavier's looking into it, right? And using this, I think he uses this thing, he uses mental powers to kind of show things on the screen or something like that, right? So they're going after this guy who's all powerful, and he drops Cyclops. He drops the people that work for him. He don't care anymore. Hey, look, there's a shot that looks kind of like Namor or no more, right? So the X-Men been laid out. At the same time, Jean is checking in. She's kind of worried about the guys, but there's stuff to do around college, right? So this is the other thing when people say that Jean is lame, that they immediately missed her while she was gone. So whenever someone says Jean is lame, the X-Men kind of, there's parts so you can see during this period where the X-Men kind of miss her and they need her, right? So she's like ready to, she's worried about Cyclops, but he's gotten back up. They're going after LT. He's re-adorning all of his thing, and he's taking his thing up in the Aztec pyramids. Taking everything back, but the X-Men have to, of course, stop him. And they're making short work of all the stuff this time with some help. Right? And I think one of the things I think Roy Thomas and maybe Shooter was doing too when he was trying to deal with the X-Men in Secret Wars is have them struggle a little bit more because they're students, right? So the X-Men are going through these pitfalls, but we kind of look at it like, oh, they can get through it. But it's looking at it through a back issue type of deal, not at the present day when this probably, even though the X-Men wasn't selling, so I can't say that the kids were wowed by it either. So it's a gross overstatement on my part, right? So they get these authorities that are connected to Kukulkan, and they're fighting, and the Beast is trying to get in to take it, but it doesn't work out. This and They're going after now. This is another kind of bad thing, right? Where Cyclops somehow Kukulkan is able to dodge Cyclops optic blast and it hits Angel and it drops him to the floor, right? He took a full blown of his thing, and then Kukulkan is doing his thing while Iceman is trying to freeze it. And then the X-Men at the same time have now sent his thing down into the, actually, Kukulkan who blasted, tried to blast the X-Men and loses one of his things, right? So they kind of stop him, and he turns back after they destroy this monument. But at the same time, Angel has been hurt. We could have used Jean's help, and he's really doubting his leadership, right? So let's just make sure. So yeah, so she was interested, but she didn't go with them on this thing. And I think the next issue they kind of struggle with it, but I don't. The issues with a mimic, I'm not kind of with. That's the only thing I didn't really kind of get with in the original X-Men was mimic. But there you go. I could jump and do the get to the coffee a go go and show you how Cyclops and Jean got together. But I think this is a good place to stop here. And hopefully you guys come back. Spin rack out.